Welcome to Short Film Showcase. I'm your host, Mike Messier. This is a show where we feature the very best short films and interviews with filmmakers and their films from New England and across the world. You can also find us on YouTube under Short Film Showcase. On this episode, we have two great in-studio guests that'll be talking about their work in film. But first, let's check out a teaser for Bryan Casey's He Never Said a Word. This teaser features our first guest, Bill Bloomfield. Let's check out He Never Said a Word right here on Short Film Showcase.
Dad.
Is everything okay?
Just checking up on my dad.
I'm sure he's fine, Billy.
Worry about him, I guess. He hasn't been himself recently.
You the one making all that racket? I'm talking to you! I got my revolver. He never said a word.
Welcome back to Short Film Showcase. That was a teaser for He Never Said a Word by our show's producer, Bryan Casey. And right now in studio, we have the gentleman that we just saw, Mr. Bill Bloomfield.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, how you doing today?
Good.
Good. No, I've seen that teaser before, and it's just great. And tell us about your character in this project.
This is a guy who's having a very bad night. And basically, he's a recluse, a fella who lost his wife. We don't know what happened to her. He is somewhat estranged, but not totally, from his son. His son tries to take care of him. And in the film, we're not quite sure what he's seeing or if he's seeing anything, but some very odd things happen to his home and his experiences that evening.
Without giving away too much, what do you mean by odd?
Well, there may be some things that go bump in the night around him. There may be some disappearing furniture or things in his living room. Some odd stuff that goes on, and he's pretty taken aback by it, pretty upset by it, and I think in the teaser there's a little bit of a hint of what might be happening.
Right. And working with Bryan Casey, our show's producer,
Yes.
he likes to present, in my opinion, gritty work, character studies, kind of the underside of humanity sometimes. The light comes through the darkness of these characters, but also there's a lot of power and strength in these characters, but they're vulnerable, and they're having, as you said, a very bad day.
No question.
Yeah. What attracted you to the script?
Well, really what attracted me at the front end was just Bryan's initial discussion about what this flick was going to be about and who this person was. And the idea that it's unclear to the audience what's real, what's not real. It's also unclear to the character,
Right.
what's real and what's not real. So it was the ability that he has to try to control his environment in a situation which is basically uncontrollable. And so as an actor, being able to confront what you think is real, then wondering whether it actually happened, flipping back to reality or what you think is reality, I think is a very interesting way to operate on a film set.
Yes. That gives you so many emotional tools to kind of play with. And,
Exactly.
Yeah. You get your wrench, your screwdriver, your
Well,
chainsaw.
the question is, what's the truth?
Yeah.
And as in the craft of acting, I think one always wants to try to play the truth as according to that character at that particular point in time.
I'm glad you said the craft of acting, and we both know that you take this seriously, as does anyone that's familiar with your work. So where did you basically learn to act, or how did you develop your craft, so to speak?
Well, you know, like a lot of kids in high school, even before high school, it was something I wanted to do. One might say it may be in the gene pool. My mother was a professional singer in New York, and it just popped up one day when I was about 14 or 15 that this is something that I really wanted to try. So I did all the shows in high school and had a fabulous director in high school. And I think one of the interesting things about young people who, whether they be in their teens or their early 20s, who want to get into the, quote, business of acting, is if you don't have a good director in one of the first 2, 3, 4 things you do, it's really hard to get to feel a balance.
Right.
So this was a guy who had done New York stuff, very good. And then I went into college, minored in theater, did all the shows there, you know, the good character stuff and good musicals. I actually had a voice then, I could sing. And then went to New York.
Do you care to share the name of that early acting teacher, or you want to keep that under wraps?
Jim Horner, I believe his name.
If he's out there watching, I'm sure he'd.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, Jack Horner.
Jack
Well,
Horner.
he went by Jack, and yeah, he was a very good kind of the fundamentals were really important to him, and if you don't get those early on, it's hard to really portray something. Even just walking across a stage or a set makes a big difference.
Oh yeah.
And then I spent a couple years in New York, banging around that. From the theater standpoint, you know, it's an interesting place to audition.
Right.
And ended up doing some soaps, a few films, commercials.
What was that, those experiences like? That sounds really interesting.
Well, again, you know, when you're in your early 20s trying to create a career, it's exciting and frightening.
Right.
At the same time. And everybody, I think, has a day job.
Yep.
And I did that. And then I would come into New York for auditions. And if I had work, I'd be able to do that. I guess part of the piece of being in a city, you know, probably the same as LA, the exhilaration of being part of that universe, even if you're not super into it, is pretty heady at a young age. And I had very good auditions, and I, you know, walked across Broadway stages a lot, you know, did a lot of auditions in that way. But I found my ego simply wasn't large enough to continue to bang away at that stuff for year after year after year. You know, there are actors who work 20 years.
Right.
And they just start to make it at a certain point. So I ended up leaving.
Okay. And going to New England?
Had a stint in D.C. and in New Jersey for a while. Did an arts and education program for many years. And then came to New England in, I guess, about 1980.
Nice.
Still didn't do any acting.
It was on the back burner. It was even off on the back burner. So
it was way off.
Yeah, yeah.
Way off. I guess about 3 years ago, I had a little extra time and thought, I wonder whether it would still be fun.
Right.
And I didn't know whether I could still do it. And took a class at Boston Casting.
Yep.
And found out it was still fun, and people said I could do it. So began auditioning and sending stuff out for films.
One of the pieces that I'm a little familiar with is Christopher D'Annunzio, A Life Not to Follow.
Right.
And Christopher has been a previous guest, and I I've caught a little sneak preview of a couple of scenes, and it looks really, really, really good. And tell us about that experience with Christopher and his project.
Yeah, Chris is a terrific director to work with. Like Bryan, they're both actors, directors, I think.
Right.
And I did a previous film for Chris, which was a takeoff on Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
And he asked if I wanted to do something in this kind of gritty gangster film he was putting together.
Yeah.
And I said, sure, let's talk about it. And David Graziano, who's also in it.
Yeah, good friend of mine. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've worked together before. And so I played, again, an unpleasant person.
Yes.
Not totally crazy this time, but pretty unpleasant. A dirty cop who tries to go on both sides of the street and ultimately gets himself in trouble on both sides of the street and has an unpleasant ending. But we did several scenes that were in locations that you die for.
Right.
As an actor on the wharf in Boston, and then in a basically a warehouse type of environment, and gunfights and
Right.
those kinds of nifty film opportunities.
High production values.
Very much so.
On a modest budget, but I've seen this some of these scenes, and I'm familiar. It's going to really do some damage. Let's put it that way.
Well, I think this is his first feature.
Yeah, it looks really good.
And very impressive.
Yeah.
Very impressive. Yeah, he's great to work with.
He tore into it. It's a little reminiscent of, I think it was Mariachi by Rodriguez, not the storyline so much, but just the ingenuity of, taking on the world in a movie.
That's right.
Yeah.
Multiple directions, multiple stories going on at the same time. Characters intersect, interact. There are 2 or 3 major parts to it. I end up being in the first part. I don't appear in the second part. I come back for the third part.
Right.
So I think audiences will see something that holds together from start to finish. And I've seen a few clips also. The editing is very tight. It's very nice job all around.
Yeah. That makes you feel good when you see a project come to fruition, or even when it's, getting there, you see these clips and you feel really good about that,
Yeah. So often, we were talking a little earlier today that you make a film, whether you're a director or an actor, and you think you got it.
Right.
It felt really good. And then either you see, the early rushes, as they used to be called, or, start to put something together. And, you wish you had done this at that point, and
Right.
the other at another point. Some actors don't like to watch themselves on screen. They get really upset about that.
Well, and it's just good to be working with some of the top guys and women, actors and actresses in the area. And this project that you just did with Christopher is
Yeah.
a testimony to that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Who, and just to get out of the regional scene a little
Sure.
bit, as an actor, you've got to have some people, you say, man, I wish one day I'd like to work with this actor or this actress or this director. You have any wish list type of people like that? Or?
Oh, it's probably smaller than a lot of people. I think, in terms of television series, the cable networks are, I think, really the place to be
Yeah.
for the most part. You look at the quality of a Boardwalk Empire,
Right.
or Showtime's series. Those would be terrific shows to do a guest star stint on or something like that.
Yeah.
Directors, I just saw 12 Years a Slave.
Okay. I haven't seen that.
Absolutely fabulous film. Very difficult to watch. Fine performances all around. And the director, that's a director that would be, I think, terrific to have an opportunity to work with.
Right.
But there's so many good talent. There's no real lack of talent out there.
Right.
It's just finding the right opportunity and the right mix.
Well, the good news for all of us in New England is that these studios are being built. We don't have to get into the specifics, but studios are coming to New England, and that's going to provide opportunities for all of us as actors. Doesn't mean that we'll land those roles, but the opportunities will be there, and guys like yourself will be right in the mix for those auditions, I'm sure.
Well, it would be terrific not to have to take the bus or to take a plane or a train to New York, for an audition. I think the question of what will happen with particularly the studio in Devon, maybe there are others, but whether roles will be cast in Boston versus New York. The casting in Boston tends to be, one or two liners.
Right.
And they bring people in from LA or from New York. And what would be terrific is if you find producers and directors who are willing to come here, participate in the community,
right,
and actually cast leading, or if not the top leading roles, guest star roles in series and supporting roles in films.
And a good way for that to happen is directors like Bryan Casey, Christopher D'Annunzio, myself, Chris Esper, another friend of ours, for us to build up the talent as directors and actors like yourself, David Graziano, these types of actors, to really make a statement with their performances. That's going to do so much. It's already doing a lot,
Yeah. I hope. From our standpoint, you go in, you shoot the scenes, you leave, and then several months later, or longer, the product comes out, and sometimes you never know how it's received.
Right.
So I hope that's correct, because there are a lot of good things happening here in the area.
Yeah.
And if the folks who with the larger budgets, with the name brands, they can see some of those things and say, yeah, it's worth a shot. Let me take a chance.
Right. I have seen some of your on your Facebook group, because we're Facebook friends.
Yes, we are.
And I saw some of your sculpting. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Is that something you want to share with us?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
How did you get into sculpting?
Well, this was something that, again, it was similar to my acting issue, that I began working in stone, generally alabaster,
Yep.
about 25 years ago. And then I didn't know anything about it. I just said, oh, wouldn't that be interesting to do one day? Found somebody, I was living in Princeton, New Jersey at that point, found somebody locally who had some equipment, had the stone, was able to give me a little instruction, went home, did some things, liked it, got a larger piece, did a little work on it, and then life intervened and put it away for a couple decades. And about 8 years ago, again, similar to the acting, I decided, well, maybe I won't travel on a Monday morning or something. And there was a class at Cordova,
Yep.
the sculpture museum in Lincoln, and took that. It was a studio class, not a, today we're gonna carve off a corner here, and tomorrow we're gonna do the next quarter. It was a studio class, meaning you bought a piece and you would come in and learn how to carve with it and actually work on it. So over the course of several years, similar to the craft of acting, there's a technique with tools, and you learn the technique. And if you have any sort of imagination,
Right.
then maybe it works out.
Yeah.
And the difference of stone sculpture versus, let's say, people who work in clay is that if you tap something a little too hard with a chisel or file too much off, you can't put it back on again. So you have to, it's an improvisation.
And there's no safety net.
That's right.
There's no
That's
super
right.
glue
But
that's going to help you out. Right.
It's doing that type of artistic expression is pure flow.
Right.
So the difference between the acting side and basically the hands in play side is you always got to be aware, up here and in your body as an actor.
Right.
And as a sculptor, you got to be aware of what your hands are doing, but there's a little more ability to float as you're working on things, and both of them are incredibly satisfying.
That's great. Well, William, we've actually run out of time. I'll leave you with this, that as a sculptor, you would appreciate this. Mount Rushmore was always there. Someone just had to get rid of the other stuff.
Exactly right.
William Bloomfield.
Thank
you very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Right now on the Short Film Showcase, we're going to take a look at some animations by our friend Bill Burke. It's Wild Bill's Cartoons, right here on the Short Film Showcase.
It's getting closer.
We gotta go now.
Uh-oh.
Hey, let's go check it out. I bet she's extra crispy.
Yummy. Uh-oh.
What a lunatic.
Welcome back to Short Film Showcase. You just saw animations by Bill Burke. Right now we're going to see Love and Laundry Soap, a film by our next in-studio guest, Nick Kajuan. Here's Love and Laundry Soap, right here on the Short Film Showcase.
What is left to say? Don't wanna come off wrong. You never loved me anyway, and now you're gone.
No, not a problem. Let's see, looks to be about $275 there.
Oh, are you sure? You didn't pocket anything for yourself, did you? I mean, how do I know I can trust you?
Yeah, I'm a police officer, so if you can't trust me, who can you trust?
Oh,
You know.
I didn't.
I'm not really mad. I'm just playing with you, But I did kind of get you, didn't I?
Oh my God, you so did. I was so embarrassed. My name's Olivia.
Nice to meet you, Olivia. My name's Jack.
Nice to meet you.
Well, I'll let you get to your laundry.
And who are you to interrupt when I'm dreaming? What good would it do? There's nothing left that I believe in, and I've tried.
What you reading over there?
Oh, fall TV guide, fall TV preview.
Fall? It's February. Aren't they a little early?
Well, it's not from this year.
Oh, what is it, from last year?
Well, let me put it this way. I'm reading about this new show called The New York Beat.
The New York Beat? Isn't it that cop show from when we were kids?
Yeah, this laundromat needs to update its magazine selection just a little bit.
You know, I think I saw that captain from that show in an arthritis commercial last week.
I saw that one too, yeah. It's kind of sad, all our idols when we were kids growing up and they're all getting old and just crazy.
Does that mean we're getting old?
I think it does. Yeah. So, what do you do for a living?
I'm a photographer.
How'd you get into that?
I kind of fell into it. When I went to college, I wanted to be a chef, and I had to take some electives, and photography was one of them. And a friend of mine was getting married, so I took pictures of her wedding as a gift.
Oh, that's pretty nice of you.
Before your nightmare sainthood, I was broke.
Well, hey, that's nothing to be ashamed of. We've all been there, and hey, in the end, it worked out for both of you. It was a win-win for you all, right?
Yeah, between word of mouth, she told her friends, they told their friends, and then eventually I was doing like 2 or 3 weddings a weekend.
Wow, that's a lot of weddings.
This is probably why I'm not married yet.
Wedding overload, huh?
Yeah. If I hear the chicken dance or the electric slide one more time, I may lose my mind.
So, were you ever close?
Close to...
Getting married?
Oh.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have asked that. That's way too personal.
No, it's fine, really. I thought I was close one.
What happened, if you don't mind me asking?
I thought we were, and he didn't feel the same.
I'm sorry, that must have been difficult.
At the time, yeah. But everything happens for a reason.
Believe that?
My great-grandma was the smartest person I know, and she used to say that.
Well, yeah, it must be true. So, whatever happened to culinary school?
After the guy that didn't feel the same way, I took a break to, get my business going, and, I bought a house, and, I kind of just never went back.
Oh, it's too bad.
No, it's all right. I mean, I still like to cook, and I throw a fabulous dinner party.
I'm sure you do. But do you ever think about going back now?
No, I'm too old.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize there was an age limit on culinary school.
No, that's not what I mean.
Oh, come on. How old are you really?
I'm older than I look, and I have responsibilities now. I have a house, I have a cat. I can't just up and go back to school.
Look, I know we just met, but if there's one thing I learned over the past couple of years, it's you gotta take care of yourself, you know? Perfectly happy for you if, you know, you're doing the wedding photography thing and cooking in your kitchen to feed your creative side, pardon the pun. I'm happy, but you never want to look back at your life and think, man, if I did this or if I took a chance doing that, I might have, you know? You never want that to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So what about you? You like being a cop?
Yeah. It's pretty cool. It's like any other job, though, really. You know, good days and bad days. And I can tell you one thing. It's nowhere as near as exciting as the New York beat, but, you know, sometimes something will happen or you'll do something and you feel like you really made a difference, and those are the really good days.
What about your family? Must be hard for them, you know, knowing you're out there all the time.
My wife, my ex-wife, she never liked the idea of me being a cop, and then once we had kids, she really didn't like it. So.
Is that why you guys split up?
Nah, I don't think so. She knew that I loved my job, and even though she didn't, she respected that. So. Yeah, our problems weren't that cut and dry or simple. You know, we got married pretty young, and as we got older, we just kind of grew apart instead of growing together. It's nobody's fault, really. It's not like she did this or I did that. It's, you know, it just happens. Life's funny sometimes, you know. You never know where it's going to take.
Right about that.
So, after you decide you're not happy anymore, you gotta make a decision what you're gonna do about it.
Was it an easy decision?
Absolutely not. But you know, I think that's the way it should be, right? If the decision to walk out on your kids was an easy one to make, I think you'd have to stop and take a long, hard look in the mirror at yourself and reevaluate your priorities.
So, tell me about your kids. How many do you have?
2, boy and a girl.
Oh, that must be fun.
Yeah, my son's a lot of fun. But my daughter, I don't know what I'm gonna do with that girl.
Why do you say that?
She's 11 going on 18. All she does is talk about makeup and boys.
I remember when I was that age, I drove my dad crazy.
Yeah, but did your dad have a gun?
Oh, God, no.
Well, I'm a cop, so I do.
My dad had his own way of intimidating the boys.
Yeah? What was that?
He was a teacher in my school, so any boy that got near me risked flunking the 7th grade.
That's what us dads do. We use what we have. So what about you? Any kids?
Nope.
Ever want them?
You know, for a long time I didn't think I did, but it's different now.
Oh yeah? How so?
Well, the guy I mentioned earlier, when things were getting really bad between us, I realized it wasn't that I didn't want to have kids, it was that I didn't want to have his kids.
Oh, really?
Yeah, sometimes you're so close to something that you don't realize the truth. You get so wrapped up into maintaining an appearance that you can't see what is really going on.
I know exactly what you mean.
Your laundry is going to get so wrinkled in that basket. Do you want my help folding it?
Thanks. Thanks. Well, that's about it for me.
I guess so.
I never knew that doing laundry could actually be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, hey, it was nice to meet you, Olivia.
It was really nice to meet you.
Hey, maybe I'll see you here again sometime when you do your laundry?
Probably not. My washer was broken. It'll probably be fixed in a couple days.
I understand. Well, it was nice to meet you anyway.
You know, maybe you could come over and use my washer next time.
No more of the papers, nothing left to say, and you're under or lack thereof. You chose the wrong part to fight, and now you're out of luck. No more bandages, the wounded lie. No more tears, the lights gone from their eyes. You are not welcome here. Your false pretenses might come off quite strong. Tell me I'm weak, I'll tell you you're wrong. And your mistakes are none of my own, and I will not suffer here. No more bandages, leave the wounded lie. No more tears, the lights gone from their eyes.
Welcome back to Short Film Showcase. You just saw Love and Laundry Soap by our next guest in studio. It's Nick Carcieri. Nick, welcome to Short Film Showcase.
Thanks for having me, Mike. I appreciate it.
Great to have you here. First, let's talk about Love and Laundry Soap.
Sure.
You have a great cast. Who are your actors?
The actors were Jose Gonzalez and Erica Tarbox were the two actors in it.
Nice. And they had really good chemistry. It's an interesting story. It's a character study. It's got a little bit of, tinges of romance, but
Yeah,
know.
it's kind of a story about. It's a story about letting go of the past. We all get to points in our life where, where we've got to let go of some things, that we're holding on to. You got to let go of those things in order to move forward with your life. You get to a point, maybe you overcome certain obstacles, but there's certain things in your past that are still kind of just holding you back. And it's about getting to that point where you're ready to let go of those things and sort of move on and embrace a new future.
how'd you come up with Jose and Erica, your actors, for this one?
Well, Jose I had worked with before. So when I had the script, I wrote the character, and I immediately thought of Jose. I'd worked with him on previous things before, and it was a different role than he had played before. I had seen him, he had played more of a, he's a very physical guy, so
Right.
he had played some sort of tough guys, and this was not really, this was a little bit more dramatic, a little bit different than I had seen him in, but I was confident that he could play the role well. Erica was my associate producer on the movie. She knew the script. She had been through the pre-production. We had cast it with another actress. Due to some health concerns, she had to drop out, at the last minute. A wonderful actress, and it wasn't her fault, but some health issues had come up, and so we were ready to shoot. And I just sort of mentioned to Erica, I said, the script, the character, how do you feel about jumping in? So she jumped right in, and I think she did a tremendous job, especially sort of under the gun last minute like that.
Sometimes these things happen,
Yeah.
and it's great to have an actress like that ready to jump in and just command the ship, you know, and especially with a two-person script.
It was a challenge because it's a two-person conversation, and it's really all it is. And it was a challenge for myself and Jill Poisson, who is my cinematographer on it. We really worked hard on what to do to make it interesting, because it really is. It's just two people talking, and you have to kind of mix that up a little bit, and with some movement or whatever, to try and so you don't lose your audience. And I think we did a pretty good job. I have to say, in all the screenings we've had, people seem to like it. People always ask me, it's funny, they always ask me, is there a sequel?
Right.
Which I love. There won't be, but that's nice that they get invested in the two characters, that they want to find out what happens after the end, after Jose walks out of that laundromat. People want to know, well, what happens next?
Right.
So I take that as a compliment that they enjoyed it, and they like the characters and want to know more. So.
And you did pick up an award for this movie, is that correct?
We did. The Motif Magazine Film Awards. We had Best Original Music. The two songs that you heard in it were by a fabulous singer-songwriter named Brittany Rabola. Those are two of her original pieces. They were produced by a good friend of mine, Heath Tugas, and that was pretty cool, to win the award for the Best Original Music.
It's always good, as not to say validation, but it makes you feel good, if
Sure.
nothing else, to get these awards, and you can say, award-winning movie maker, Nick Kajuan.
That's true. That's true. But it is, we do these things. You do these things. You put these things out there. You hope somebody likes them.
Right.
And so, when somebody appreciates it, or an award like that, we don't do it for the awards,
Right.
but it's nice to get that sort of recognition and say we did something that connected with some people, connected with an audience. They enjoyed it. And it's fun. And I just found out yesterday, just yesterday, that it just got accepted into the Shawn O'Shea Indie Film Fest in a couple weeks. So that's good. That'll be our second film festival for it. So that was pretty exciting.
We had Skip Shea, who created that festival. He's a great guy, and is a collaborator of mine, as you are. So
yes,
we're working, for the audience to know, we're working on a piece together. I'm the screenwriter, and you're the director.
Yes, American Luchador was a script that you had written. We had had a couple of meetings about that I'm directing now. We're full on into pre-production here. We're putting our budget together. We've cast most of it. There's a couple of roles left to cast. We're doing rehearsals. We're actually in a couple of weeks going on a location shoot down to Virginia. We're full on into American Luchador mode.
And let's talk about it. And,
Sure.
And just because, just for the audience, I wrote the piece, and I said, Nick is really lightning in a bottle with this piece, and I said, let's have Nick direct this, because you had the mucho gusto spirit of American Luchador.
I appreciate it. It's funny because I read the script the first time, and very similar to Love and Laundry Soap in that it's about somewhat letting go of your past, and that's something that everybody can relate to. As I mentioned with Love and Laundry Soap, we are all at that point, get to that point in our lives, and so there's a universal message in there that sometimes you've got to let go of these things in your past, and that's what the main character, Lobo Fuego, I liken American Luchador. It's similar in a way to the classic A Christmas Carol. It's somebody looking back at his life, looking back at maybe not the mistakes, but the things in his life that have sort of, just been gnawing at him. And it's about letting go of that stuff and embracing who you are right now and what your future is. And I think that's what attracted me to the script. It's that, it's such a universal lesson that I've experienced in my own life,
Sure.
that I've written about, that it's just something that everyone can relate to. The wrestling aspect of it, I'm a huge wrestling fan, so that was a draw to it as far as putting it in the world of professional wrestling. But it's a story that you don't have to be a wrestling fan to relate to. Everyone can relate to the story. Ours just happens to take place within the squared circle, so to speak.
And it adds a lot of color and flavor.
Sure. And there's, the whole luchador aspect of the luchador culture. that's something it's very attractive. You mentioned in your earlier piece with Bill, you had mentioned Robert Rodriguez. He is probably my favorite director. His book, Rebel Without a Crew, when he made El Mariachi,
Right.
Literally changed my life. It was, I had been sort of writing and, dabbling in film here and there. And I read his book and I said, this guy made a movie by himself, literally with no crew. And I said, what the hell, I can do this.
Right. Robert Rodriguez in that book describes how he literally went to like a laboratory for 2 months.
He did.
Remember
like drug testing, pharmaceutical testing, where he would get money. He would go into this facility for 30 days, and they would, give him new pharmaceuticals that were coming out, check the side effects, see how they worked, and they would pay him, and that's how he raised funds for it. But the stuff about, he literally, if you read the book, he literally has no crew. He's the cameraman, he's the camera operator, the director, everything. And they would shoot a scene, and then they would redo the audio on the scene. They'd have to just say it again just for the audio, and it was just so it really changed my life, and it made me brought me to where I am.
We all start with our first films. For me, I had the Wrestling with Sandy short film trilogy. One of your earlier films was called The Call, which I think we've shown on the short film showcase. The
Call came about. A friend of mine at South County Hospital down in Wakefield, they wanted to do a PSA, anti-teen drunk driving PSA. And a friend of mine, Lee Singer, had approached me and she said, you've done some stuff with writing and film. Do you want to help out? I said, sure. So we helped. It was a very basic story. 4 kids at a party drinking. They get in a car hits a tree. We wanted to kind of show the kids what could happen. We got to shoot in the hospital, in the emergency department at South County Hospital. We had the Narragansett Fire Department was part of it. The South Kingstown Police Department. We really were able to have a lot of resources. There was supposed to be another director attached, and he couldn't do it. And so we were looking for a director, and I kind of looked around and said, I'll do it.
Right.
Sometimes, how often do you get those opportunities just fall in your lap like that?
Sure.
So we cast some actors that I had known, and we put together a nice little piece. Bryan Casey, who is a producer here on the show, he did some of the makeup effects for us. Jill Poisson, who I mentioned earlier, she was the cinematographer for it. And it was a nice little piece, and it's still being shown in local high schools. It has been shown at some nursing conferences across the country, all those sort of things, and a lot of the local high schools use it in their programs around prom time. They'll show the film, so it's nice. It's nice that it's out there, and maybe it made a difference. But that was a lot of fun.
I'm sure it did. You never, when you do something like that has such a straight ahead narrative way to reach people, to reach their hearts and to reach their minds.
Yeah.
You could be saving lives. You never know.
Yeah, you could be. And the actress who's our lead in there, Kayla Quirk, who right now is at Syracuse University, and she does a tremendous job. I had seen her in a play. I needed to cast that last role of the driver, and she had to carry the film because she's the driver. She's the one who crashes and her friends die, and I had seen her in a play of a stage production of Cider House Rules.
Right.
And I said, that's my girl, and she really came in and she did a great job, and so that was a lot of fun.
Nice.
That was a lot of fun.
And these projects build upon each other. From The Call to Love and Laundry Soap, now American Luchador, which, like you said yourself, is your 10th project.
My 10th, yeah. Yeah.
And that's got to feel good.
It is, and I've learned from each one. I didn't go to film school.
Right.
I read a lot of books.
Yeah.
And I sort of learn things. I go to other people's sets, and I've sort of learned by that. I started as a writer, and then the directing just sort of came out of that. And I read a lot of books, filmmaking books and directing books and that sort of thing. And but I try to learn from each experience. I work with different people, and I kind of learn as I go. I like dialogue. I like to work with dialogue. I like it to sound natural. A lot of people will tell me, especially Love and Laundry Soap, that the dialogue, the interaction between them just seems like natural conversation, and I take a little pride in that. That's what I want. Sometimes things, dialogue seems too too elaborate or whatever. And it's
Rigid,
not how
yeah.
people talk.
Right,
You know,
right,
I
right.
like to, you know, I like to hear how people talk and how people interrelate. So.
Nice. You mentioned reading filmmaking books, and I would just like to mention my favorite, which is Laurent Terrard, Movie Maker's Masterclass. It's got a red and black cover, and he interviews all types of directors about their films. Sidney Lumet, not Sidney Lumet, Sidney Pollack. Sidney Pollack has some great quotes, and I think you'd like that book.
I do. I probably would. I haven't familiar with it, but I get more out of those than sort of a technical do this, do this, do that. You get more out of learning how other people do their things. There was a great series of books. I started in comic books, and there was a great series of books. Comic writers on comic writing, and it was just sort of that thing where essays or interviews by different writers about how they approach things. And it's not a like you should do it like this. It's just like this is how they do it. And I learn a lot from just hearing about how other people do things and how other people approach things and the way they do it. And I was able to meet some people during the days when I did comic books and kind of develop my style then. But I mentioned dialogue earlier. When I started in comic books, I would write a script, I would send it to an artist, they would send it back to me. And at the time, I did all my own lettering.
Right.
So I would get the pages back from the artist, and I would say, oh my Lord, there is no way I can fit all that dialogue in that panel.
Yeah.
So I would have to look at it and say, okay, how can I say that same thing, but in less words? Boil it down to what it really needs to be to get the point across. So I can fit it physically
Literally
on that
the
page.
Yeah, wow.
And that's how I sort of started really developing my dialogue style. And it's similar to if you watch any Asian cinema, it's similar to that. The Asian cinema is very there is not a lot of fill. It is each scene is what it needs to be, only what it needs to be to sell that scene, and it's quick. And it's to the point, and so I enjoy that. And there's not a lot of extraneous talking and whatever. It's boom, 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 and that's kind of how I work as well.
I saw The Grand Master twice recently, and major release, and it was just such a powerful movie. I thought.
Yep. There's some really great stuff coming out of the East like that.
Yeah, well, it's so good to have you on the show because this is our 30th episode, and for me to be able to talk with you about your The Call and Love and Laundry Soap, but also my favorite, American Luchador.
American Luchador, coming next year.
We have a few minutes just to say that we have a great cast, the professional wrestler, independent star JT Dunn.
We do.
And
when we were talking about American Luchador, and my word for the whole production is authenticity.
Right.
I wanted this to be authentic, and we had tossed around ideas of casting, because it's a lucha wrestler, he wears a mask for the majority of the film. And so, we could cast an actor and then a body double for the in-ring stuff because he wears a mask and nobody would know. But I really didn't want to do that. I could cast any actor to say the words, and they would say the words and they would do a great job, I'm sure. But there's something about someone saying the words who understands it behind it, who lives that. When a character questions our main character, Lobo Fuego, about being an athlete and these sort of things, someone who lives professional wrestling knows what it's like to hear those questions, not just an actor who would get into the character. So, talk to a few promoter friends of mine about wrestlers who maybe have had some acting experience or some drama, and JT Dunn was recommended to us, and had a couple of meetings with JT, and what really sold me on him was his knowledge of the lucha, the lucha style, the lucha culture.
Yeah.
I knew a little bit about professional wrestling from being around it, but in sitting and talking with JT for a half hour, I learned so much. And then I took what I learned from him, went back to the script, and it was really kind of developed. So, and in JT, he's a rising star.
He just beat Eddie Edwards, which is a big independent star. And
he's a rising star in the indie scene. He primarily here in the Northeast, but he's starting to branch out. He's wrestled in Las Vegas and down the East Coast, and he's really good, and I'm really excited. And we also have Jose Gonzalez, who I've worked with before. Cast him in a role there.
He could wrestle if he wanted to. He's a big dude.
He could. He could. Jose and I actually, JT, in addition to his wrestling, he teaches wrestling. He has a wrestling school where he trains young wrestlers. And Jose and I sat in one night and we got in the ring and bumped, as they call it, and we did okay. But Jose, he's a natural athlete, so he did really good. And I think I did pretty good for a 40-something-year-old guy getting in the ring for the first time. It was a lot of fun, though.
We've got Joel Gertner, who everyone knows in wrestling circles from ECW,
yeah,
and the Dudleys and everything.
Joel is part of the production is we're putting on a wrestling show in late February. And we're going to be filming it for the movie, with movie matches. We're also booking, local wrestlers and everything. And Joel has agreed to be our ring announcer. He comes from, like you said, the ECW days. He's been in professional wrestling for I don't even know how long.
15 years at least.
At least. So he'll be our ring announcer. And again, it's adding to that authenticity.
Yeah. Unbelievably, we've pretty much run out of time, Nick. We're going to have you come back on.
Sure, anytime.
But Nick Kajuan right here on the Short Film Showcase.
Thank you very much.
Right now on Short Film Showcase, I'm very happy to present Nick Kajuan's teaser for American Luchador, a piece that I was lucky enough to write. So let's check out the teaser for American Luchador right here on Short Film Showcase.
You are a man, afraid of himself. You are a man, afraid of his own demons. Rest, Lobo Fuego. This day settles down on us. For when we meet again, you and I have business.
Welcome back to Short Film Showcase. That was the teaser for American Luchador, a script that I wrote and our guest Nick Kajuan is directing. I'd like to thank you all for watching Short Film Showcase. On this episode, we've had two great guests, Nick Kajuan and Bill Bloomfield. We want to thank them so much for coming out and sharing their time with us. And in our new year for 2014, we're looking for a segment hostess. That's a great opportunity. So anyone that's interested in being a segment hostess right here on Short Film Showcase, please contact our producer, Bryan Casey, through bcfilms.net. That's Bryan Casey at bcfilms.net to put your name in the hat to be our segment hostess on the Short Film Showcase. And a lot of times people will come up to me and Bryan and say, hey, I've seen the short films on your show. I want to get involved. I want to direct. Well, folks, if you can dream it, shoot it. I'm Mike Messier for Short Film Showcase.